Have you ever felt like the work that you do for Jesus sometimes doesn't matter or isn't quite having the impact that you want it to? I know there's been moments and times in my life where I felt like, I'm really trying to do kingdom work or live for Jesus, and it's falling flat or not having the impact that I thought it would. The passage I'm going to kind of share my devotional out of today, Luke 5, verses 1 to 11, kind of talks about this idea when Jesus first calls his disciples. So why don't you turn there with me? One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you will fish for people." So they pulled their boats up on the shore, left everything, and followed him. This is such a great and classic passage that we have here. And when I was reading through it again for I don't know how many times now, I really felt Jesus nudge me and gave me a new lens from which to see this passage. And in light of our current situation with COVID and all the political turmoil and change in our lives, I just really feel that this passage speaks to us. And so we see in this passage before, Jesus has been baptized, he's been tempted in the wilderness, and the Spirit of God has descended on him and empowered him for ministry. And Jesus, has been prepared for his ministry, and he's doing it now. He's already cast out demons, he's already healed people, he's already done miraculous things and been teaching wherever he goes. And now it's time for him to call others to be his disciples and to join in on his mission. And so the crowds were so great, and so many people wanted to hear what Jesus was saying and how he was teaching, that he actually went out into the water in a boat so that he could get some distance but still teach. And after some time of teaching, he tells Simon to put his net into the water to fish. And now we know Simon would have been a career fisherman. His father probably was a fisherman. His grandfather was probably a fisherman. His grandfather's father was probably a fisherman. It was a generational thing. And so he knows the best spots, where to fish, how to fish well, when to do it, what time of day. And Peter in his mind may have been a little bit puzzled by Jesus' request, who was a carpenter, not a fisherman. And he says, "Master, we have toiled all night and took nothing. We have tried and nothing happened." But we see in chapter 4, verses 38 to 39, we see that Peter has this trust in Jesus. It says this in chapter 4, verses 38 to 39. "And he arose and left the synagogue and entered Simon's house. Now Simon's mother-in-law was ill with a high fever, and they appealed to him on her behalf, and he stood over her and rebuked the fever. And it left her, and immediately she rose and began to serve them." So we see that Jesus has healed Simon Peter's mother, and that he's experienced Jesus' miraculous working before. And so that's why Peter can respond with, "But at your word, I will let down the nets." Peter is able to respond in humble obedience because he knows what Jesus can do. He's seen it. He has experienced it. This past year has been difficult for us on so many different levels. It's been really, really tough. And every time it feels like we're starting to get momentum, the brakes get pumped again. And there have been some positives for people in the midst of suffering, but it doesn't change the fact that it's been hard and it's been difficult. And it might even feel like the things that we're trying to do for Jesus aren't working and that nothing's happening right now. And we can relate to Simon Peter, like, Master, why are you asking me to put down the nets again? We're catching nothing. We're letting down our nets time and time again. And it can feel really meaningless and futile. But the reality is that Jesus is calling us to be faithful right now in the midst of hardship. We need to keep persevering. When Jesus calls us to do something, when we feel that tug in our heart, it can be tempting to think it's not actually going to do anything or it doesn't matter. However, we need to hear Jesus' voice saying to us, put out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch. We need to trust that Jesus is the one who changes everything, that he is working, that he is moving. We need to listen to his voice and be obedient to him. We need to trust that Jesus has worked in the past and that he will continue to work and work in the future as well. We need to look for different ways to see how Jesus might be asking us to lead and to build his kingdom here. And so some of the questions we need to be asking, instead of, Jesus, why is this so hard? We could ask, how is he calling us to work right now? What might Jesus be doing in our lives and the lives of other people in this season? And what might he be calling us to do to advance his kingdom in a new way? I hope that these words are an encouragement, that they inspire you into a new life with Jesus. Thanks.